Hello, everyone, and welcome to ENN 25. Welcome, one and all, to this quarantined edition of the Exiles Network News. I am in good spirits. I hope you are too. I'm joined by, the usual crew, the three amigos, the the super team of exiles, and we're just gonna try to add a little bit of color and light and goodness to your day. So it's my pleasure to welcome Christian and Paul. Hey, Christian, how are you doing today?
What's up, man? Hey, as best as can be expected. I'm healthy. I'm living. No COVID-19 over here. So let's call that a good day right there. So doing all
Absolutely.
right.
I agree with you. It's good to hear your voice. And Paul,
You
what's
too.
up?
Same. I can't complain. Healthy so far, and that's the important thing. So yeah, all's as well as it can be, and yeah, nice to get back chatting with you guys. I missed the ENN 24, so feels like it's been about a month. I think we were just going into this whole quarantine thing last time we spoke.
Yeah.
So the world has changed since ENN 23.
It's like the world changed on a dime. It's just like it just flipped. Like everything just, just turned from normal to this. And I've heard a lot of people call this the new normal, and I don't want to call it the new normal because it isn't normal. And this is not going to be our modus operandi going forward. This is just temporary. All this coronavirus, quarantine, living this antisocial type of social life. Nah, I'm not cool with it. This is not cool. And although we have a little bit of ways to go, I'm ready for it to be over. So we don't have our standard list of topics and movie trailers and coming soon section because of the disruption that everyone has experienced from this coronavirus. So today we're going to do a more freewheeling and dealing episode of Exile Network News. So we're just gonna talk, and wherever the conversation goes, it goes. We're gonna bring up stuff that's happening in the industry, stuff that's happening in our personal life, and I'm really excited to hear what my fellow exiles have been up to in terms of TV series they're streaming, movies they're watching, things they've caught up on in this period where we have an excess of time to talk. So I'll hand it over to Christian. Christian, first off,
Mhm.
set the stage by telling us how you're doing personally and what level of quarantine and social distancing you're experiencing or exercising, and what goes in a typical day for Christian.
I'm doing okay. It's a cross between bad and good. So there are days that are very bad. There's days that are very good. You guys know that I suffer from depression and anxiety, so this has taken a huge toll
Mm,
mentally on me. Dealing with this is very tough, especially the
mm,
isolation. I do have my wife, and we have our pets, and we have our families. But yes, it is very difficult on a personal level. Things have happened in my job that are very negative.
mm,
So with loss of income and things like that, but you have to look at the good things. And as of right now, my wife and I are not COVID positive or anything. We have not developed any symptoms. I understand we could be asymptomatic carriers, but let's not worry about that right now. So, um, to answer your other question, we are in the hot zone. I live literally 5 minutes from New York City.
mm,
So I am right outside New York City. I'm in New Jersey. I'm in Bergen County, which is the northernmost county of New Jersey. That's closest to not the northern, but like the northeasternmost county that's right outside New York City. Most of our
mm,
workers are in New York City. We are now officially in community infection. We've been quarantined now for about over 3 weeks.
mm,
So we can't really go out to do much, with the exception of walking our dogs, taking a run, walking. We can go to the store. They have now closed state and county parks in New Jersey. So it's bad. We're pretty locked down here. You can't really do too much except read, watch movies, things like that. We'll talk about that later in the pod. But yeah, so and right now I am working remotely at least for hopefully long in the future. But I am working right now remotely. So typical day is get up, take a shower, do my thing, drink some coffee. I remote work. I make a bunch of phone calls. I'll do a webinar, things like that, trying to help our members coordinate a lot of the confusion in the economy and the government assistance programs. That's a lot of what I do. So we're trying to help our construction members kind of navigate all that. And then as we get towards the end of the day, my wife and I like to go outside and get some fresh air. And then after that, it's on to however I can screw around, whether that's video games or watching a movie or starting to binge watch and do something else. That's what happens usually at night. So yeah, that's basically a day in the life. But I will say, it is scary where we are because we are in the United States. We're in the hottest of hot zones. And that's definitely freaky. We believe we're starting to plateau here, but it's going to be at least another month before we come out of this, I think.
Yeah. All right. Well, sounds like you're doing okay. I'm happy to hear that, at least you have things that are keeping you engaged.
Yes.
Working from home in this time, people who are able to do that, it's a benefit. You're keeping busy. You have obligations and tasks that are occupying your time, and you have somewhat of a center and a foundation.
I would agree.
I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum in terms of I've just completely been furloughed, and I'm a manager. So the only thing that I'm able to do is I stay in contact with my superiors and people who I manage, make sure that I'm getting information to the people who I manage, and I'm making sure they're good on a personal level. I'm trying to maintain that sort of camaraderie that you establish in the working place amongst members. Make sure that they feel that that we're taking care of them, and that we have their best interests at heart, whatever it is. I'm making sure to ask them about their bills and their rent and all that stuff. In the UK, we're quite lucky because the government has the economic stimulus package for the UK is good, because what it just is, it's an 80%. They're reimbursing us 80% of our normal wages. So I mean, it's not 100%. You're losing about 20%.
Sure.
But it's not as bad as some other places, especially when I hear about like developing countries where they're just getting no assistance. It puts things in perspective. So for me, where I am struggling a little bit is that I don't have a center or foundation in terms of something to do. So I'm trying to structure my day, but it's not going so well. I can't lie. I can't lie. I'm waking up at I've been waking up at 12 p.m. I can't lie. Because I mean, I would like to wake up earlier and stuff, but in the first place, I'm a nocturnal animal. I actually do enjoy being up late at night, and
well, hey, you do your pods with us at 2 a.m, right?
Exactly. And even on the normal, even when I'm working, I'm usually up super late. So that's normal for me. So, but just with not having to wake up early, it's just I've just stayed in bed till 12, and you know what? I really don't care. I'm not gonna feel guilty about it. But I'm trying to keep mentally and physically fit. Doing some home workouts, working out helps me with my mental health. It helps relieve a lot of stress for me. It's a time when I'm able to reflect internally, and the physical exertion just does something to release and relieve any sort of pent-up stress that I have in me. When this quarantine first started, it was quite difficult for me mentally, and I had a lot of anxiety, I guess.
Same here.
Although I don't typically, I suffer spells of depression, but not typically anxiety. But I had a lot of anxiety because of this. It was as if the situation simulated a depressive spell.
Right.
So whenever I tend to fall into a depressive spell, it has to be, isolation, a lot of negative thoughts, a downturn in mood. And then you also feel like the environment is moody, even if it isn't.
Yeah.
And all of that was simulated with this. Everybody in the community is stressed out, anxious, not happy, obviously. And then when you're indoors all day and all night, so it simulated what you would experience in a depressive spell. And that was very troubling for my mind in terms of I wasn't feeling ill mentally, but physically I was experiencing what it would be like if I was ill. So that took some time to get adjusted to remind myself, okay, Lupe, you're not going through an episode or anything. You're okay. You're happy. Everything is good. So after a couple
You know
of
what,
days,
man? That messes with your brain, and I apologize for interrupting you.
Go
It's
ahead.
especially before we get to Paul, that does mess with your brain. I suffer from like horrible allergies. So like every time I sneeze, I'm like COVID,
Yeah.
like immediately.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, I'm dying. So yeah, it just constantly plays games with your brain, and getting yourself out of that mindset when you're home is so hard.
It's so hard. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And yeah, and with the extra time, I've been watching like a lot of series, like everything that I hadn't caught up on in terms of like movies and series. I've been doing. I first started with watching stuff I'd seen before, so I watched Ben-Hur, which is one of my all-time favorite films. It's talking about I think it's 1961 or something, or
Yeah.
1969. Yeah. So I watched that one, and then I watched Batman v Superman. And then I watched it again with the Zack Snyder watch along party. But then from that point on, I was like, you know what? I have all this time. I'm only going to watch new stuff. Not going to do any retread. So I've been happy with that sort of resolution, and it's yielded fruits. We'll talk more about the stuff that we've seen. But anyway, I'm going on too long. I really want to hear what Paul has been up to, because Paul is also someone who's very busy and usually isn't able to catch up on a lot of stuff to watch. And so, Paul, how are you spending your free time, and what's home life
What
like?
what free time?
Oh,
You know what? I'm actually fortunate enough that my employment has not really been affected. So we are, we've been, uh, we went to work from home shortly after our last episode. I think it was Friday the 13th of March. Our company made the decision to have everyone work from home, and I think that was around the same time that most of the province started advising for similar measures. And so I've been working from home now for pretty close to a month. And I regularly work from home, not full time, but at least a couple days a week I work from home. So the biggest change to me, thankfully, is that I don't have a 3-hour round trip commute 2 or 3 times a week. So saving me a little time on commute. But aside from that, my employment's been stable, thankfully. My company's not especially affected. I mean, all companies are affected to a degree, but we haven't been affected too badly. So, there's been no layoffs. No one's losing their jobs at this point. So, it's business as usual for me, really, aside from the fact that I don't have to commute into work. I would say the nicest thing about it is that, I am getting to spend more time with my family, because my wife's a teacher, and my daughter's home from school right now, and we don't have to chase around to dance class in the evenings and on weekends. So we have more. It's a little more relaxed outside of work, I would say. So it's been nice. We've been able to, have some fun as a family, come up with activities to keep us interested. We go for walks 2-3 times a day, weather permitting. It's still kind of cold here, but we have had signs of spring coming and sun breaking through. So we've been getting some exercise, and thankfully none of us have been sick. The number of cases in the Greater Toronto area is still pretty. I guess compared to other places, certainly compared to like in New York, it's the numbers are small, right? Like we've got, the Greater Toronto area has a population of 6 million people. We've got, I think, somewhere around 1,500 to 2,000 cases, and province-wide, in a province of 14 million people, I think we've had just over 200 deaths. So we're not experiencing it as badly as some places. So we are still definitely on lockdown. The only businesses that are open are essential services. People are supposed to essentially stay home unless you're going for groceries or to pharmacies. but we are still able to get out and walk. And, you do see a lot of people out walking around our neighborhood, and everyone's been pretty good about making sure everyone, keeps at least 6 to 10 feet away in terms of providing space when you're walking. If you see someone coming in the other direction, someone heads to the road, to make sure there's adequate space. But, thankfully, and I said, I don't want to jinx myself, but thankfully, no one I know has contracted it, and we haven't contracted it yet. So, can't complain from a health perspective. Had some other things go on that, during this that have been a little challenging. My dog had to be put down 2 weeks before her 15th birthday, and that was during the early stages of this whole shutdown. So
It's
that
terrible.
was a little challenging. That was tough. They really are family members. So that was
your pets are a member of your family, Paul. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. So so we had to say goodbye to her, and that was tough. But we got through that, and then last week my mother had to be taken by ambulance to the hospital unexpectedly, not related to COVID-19, but nonetheless, I had to go to the hospital to pick her up. And there's always a concern, when you're when you're in the hospital, that especially where there are COVID-19 cases, that she's potentially at risk. So now she has to, we've got that period of concern, I guess, where you're hoping no symptoms show up. And then my uncle had a stroke last week, so that was not ideal, and he had to go to a hospital as well. So he's back out now, but again, now he's on quarantine for 2 weeks. So now my aunt's taking care of him. So life doesn't stop, right? You still have other things, other stresses going on in life, but thankfully the COVID-19 as a whole hasn't directly impacted us, and in some ways, I'm enjoying the slightly slower pace of life, on its own, right? Obviously, it's there's a lot of rough things going on. Anyone that's been impacted by it, obviously, is going to have a different perspective, either from health or through employment. And you feel for those people that have lost their jobs or businesses that are struggling to stay alive. But personally, thankfully, it could be a lot worse. So I can't complain. Yeah. So in terms of what have I been watching, what have I been, as I say, I haven't had that much more free time on my hands, but we've made time to watch movies as a family. I've caught up on some of the newer stuff. And so maybe I haven't gotten through as much of my backlog as I would have liked, but I've been able to avoid the backlog getting longer and watch some of the newer stuff, watch a little bit of television, listen to an audiobook, that kind of stuff. So we'll get more into that, but that's what's been keeping me busy.
Okay. I guess that's a good segue into what have you been watching. So, any of you guys want to start first? Are you excited to talk about anything, or are you excited to talk about anything you're disappointed in? There's something that I really want to talk about, but go ahead, guys.
I haven't been really disappointed at anything yet, because the beauty of quarantine is you can kind of direct yourself towards the stuff that you think you're going to love, right? Sure. That you think it. Now, of course, you can be disappointed, right? When you watch that, you could watch it and then go, well, that sucked. But I am gravitating towards things that I think I was going to like. For me, and I'll let you guys talk after this, I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole. For me, the two things that I was really excited to binge and catch up on were Castlevania and Picard. And I was so happy with both of those shows, and I was so glad I got a chance to watch both. Castlevania was kind of slow burning, brooding, dark, and then the last 3 episodes were out of control, violent, sex, blood. It was just nuts. And it was, I thought the last couple of episodes in Castlevania really brought that entire show home and left it in an interesting spot moving forward with like the portal of hell. And it's really, go ahead, man.
Just to join you before you go into Picard. So when I was about to watch Castlevania, I think I asked you about it, and I don't think you had finished it. And you said something about it being full of filler.
Yeah.
So I wasn't really too hyped up going into it, but I was like, I have the time, so let me get into it. If it was like a regular period of time where I was busier, I probably wouldn't have watched it. And I concur with what you say. It was bomb. I loved it. As you did say, it was a very slow, methodical build-up
Oh yeah.
until the final about 3 episodes, and boy, did they reward you for being patient, um, and going through sort of like slow episodes. Um, we plan on reviewing this very soon,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
I'm hoping that Christian will be up to reviewing it. A very brief, non-spoiler review.
Sure.
Happy to go into more details, go into characters, go into sort of the lore and stuff like that for
Yeah, I'd
you
be
guys.
glad to do like
Yeah.
a if you wanted to do like a quickie interview, I'd be happy to do that. And then whenever you want to do like a more in depth, because I really loved all 3 seasons of this show.
Hmm.
I was surprised how much I liked it. Because you know how anime can be. But I was surprised. I really did, and I agree with you 100%. The show started well, the third season started really good, and then these middle episodes. It's not that they sucked. It's just that it was where are you going? And it wasn't
Exactly.
yeah, and you know what? It wasn't like a Monster of the Week episode, which I would have been okay with if they did Monster of the Week and then the next episode. It wasn't even like that. They were definitely heading towards something, but it was like, what are you doing? So,
Hmm.
so I had trouble seeing if one episode was building on the next. However, like you just said, tying it all together in those final 3 episodes, and then like finding what like the one sister what she was doing to poor Hector in the
Hmm.
dungeon oh my god like it's just like
Yeah.
a complete mess and opening up the portal to hell and everything. I'm not spoiling anything by doing that because that's pretty much a standard for the whole plot, the whole that doesn't spoil anything. It just yeah it was I thought it was a pretty incredible show. It was really well done. If you like any of that stuff, gothic horror, vampires, the original video games,
Fantasy.
Castlevania. Yes,
Just
fantasy,
the creature design is just like
creepy,
endlessly amazing, and
creepy.
I love how it has variety. They have these demons from hell, and usually in shows like this, you see like there's a particular type. So, for example, like parademons,
Hmm. Hmm.
it's a stock type of creature, and they just multiply it by 1 million. But it's like almost every creature has like different physiology and biology and different powers, and there's
Definitely.
dozens and hundreds of them. It's so impressive. And also, you know what they did? I don't want to give it away. We'll get more into it in our uh, review and analysis. But what they
Sure.
did for the last, like the battle royale, the finale, where they juxtapose crazy all out action with sex scenes.
Yeah, it was
It's
weird. It was so
it's so good. Have you heard the saying? There's a saying that it's from Kubrick. He says something about shooting his murder scenes like sex scenes and shooting
hmm.
his sex scenes like, and it was as if they were playing on that. It was
Yes,
almost like the sex scenes juxtaposed against the murder rampage and war and battles. It was so well done.
I
And
agree.
it was anyway, we'll get deeper into it. But yeah, I'm really happy that something like this exists. That's
It's
what I
it's
kept on thinking.
I agree. It's different, and I didn't expect Netflix to do it, and it's just been so well received. So that means we're getting a season 4 and we're getting a season
Mhm.
5, and this is if you're waiting on it, that's fine because this is a good binge watch. I think it's
Yeah,
a great binge
absolutely.
watch. Paul, don't watch it with your daughter.
No,
Yeah.
no.
No, it sounds like I'll avoid that. Although I did watch The Matrix with her and she loved it, which we can talk about later.
Nice.
Yeah. We'll talk about that. All right.
The other before I if we're just talking about series and stuff like that, I'll pass it off to you guys so I'm not completely bogarting the conversation here.
Well, you
But
can talk about anything, even movies, anything you've watched. Just go for it.
I can't recommend Picard enough. And you know what? You guys know I'm a Trekkie. I'm old school Trekkie. I love the original series. Next Generation and Deep Space Nine are like the pinnacle of Star Trek for me. That's the peak. Both TNG and Deep Space Nine, I think, are peak Star Trek. And I really enjoyed the not the sequel, the reboot series.
Mhm.
I thought all 3 were good in their own way. They did something different. Beyond was more like the original series. Into Darkness was dark. And I thought that was a good action movie. And Star Trek 2009, I thought was a nice reboot to the whole series. It brought it to today's audiences. It wasn't as cerebral as old Star Trek, but I thought that that's what Star Trek needed to do. It needed to get that injection. So if you're a really old school fan and you you really cannot handle what Star Trek's doing lately with Discovery and everything, you're going to hate Picard. You're going to hate it. I don't know how else to say it. You're not going to like it. But if you're more like me and you're willing to embrace, the future and respect what happened in the past, this show had so many themes running through it about aging, the people we love, trying to hold on to the past and understanding that you can't and you have to embrace the future. Picard, it's a story about him going on a final adventure and getting a new family. But in the process, you have a 90-year-old man that rediscovers himself and rediscovers his purpose in life. And it had just enough nostalgia to make you get a tear in your eye at certain times without overdoing it. You guys both know that movies and shows can punch you in the face with nostalgia over and over again. And I never felt that this show did that. It did a couple things that are new for Star Trek. It dropped F-bombs. It showed you the darker side of the Federation, the darker side of Starfleet, which only Deep Space Nine kind of touched on. Originally the other Star Trek shows, Starfleet and everything was almost like they could do no wrong. They were godlike. The Federation was godlike. But now they're realizing that these are populated by people and beings of all different species and all different races that make mistakes just like everybody else. And it's about dealing with those mistakes and dealing with what you've done in the past and understanding that there's a better future. It ended on such an awesome note. Really looking forward to season 2. This show surprised me by how much I liked it. It surprised me by how much it hit me in the heart and the feels, and found a way to sandwich awesome sci-fi action in between. And especially the final 2 episodes gave us some great space battles. So those are I'll talk more about movies and stuff later. I don't want to bogart the conversation, but those are definitely 2 shows that I really was so happy that I got a chance to binge during this quarantine time.
Nice. So Paul, what about you? What streaming series have you been watching in this time?
Well, so my wife and I were able to get through all 3 seasons of The Sinner. I think we might have started it before the quarantine, but we were able to catch up. And
The Sinner is good.
We both really liked that series. Season 3 was an odd one, not necessarily for everyone, but by the time it was all said and done, I really enjoyed season 3 as well. It was a little bit of a fight to get invested in it at the beginning, but yeah, it grew on me as it went. So. That's been the main series we watched, and then we've started The Outsider. We're only 2 episodes in, I think, but I'm really enjoying that one as well so far. And other than that, we've just been hitting movies. So are we talking about movies now too? And
we can segue into movies.
Yeah, I'll do my movies later. You guys talk.
Yeah. So movies. I mean, as I say, I've caught up on a lot of the recent stuff. Some I like more than others. Let's see here. I got my list here. So basically, Birds of Prey. I got through the first half of it. We could talk more about that if you guys are interested.
The first half.
Oh my God! Positive. Paul is at it again.
Hey, I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything negative. Ford versus
I got through the first half.
Yeah. Ford versus Ferrari. I also got through the first half, but for very different reasons. The Invisible Man I watched, Bloodshot, The Hunt, Guns Akimbo, got through the first 10 minutes of Cats, Sonic the Hedgehog, and then I went back and watched a couple older ones, Matrix with my daughter, and I got most of the way through Chronicles of Riddick, and I'm 3 nights into that one, and it's going to take a 4th night to finish it.
I am surprised that you haven't loved Chronicles of Riddick and just like breezed through it. I don't know why. I thought it would be your kind of thing. Sci-fi. It's edgy. There's darkness to it, violence.
It's absolutely my type of movie, except the dialogue is just it's an abomination. Yeah, the dialogue is painful. There's one scene where he meets Thandie Newton's character, and he takes a good long creepy sniff of her and says, "It's been a long time since I've smelled beautiful." And I thought, oh God,
oh, God,
a good long creepy sniff.
And then later there's another female character, and he goes, "You grind your teeth when you sleep."
I'm disturbed.
Sexy.
I'm disturbed. That's it.
Oh God, it was cringe. The dialogue was cringe, but the necromongers and the whole world they created there and the whole look of it. I mean that's very much something I'd be interested in. It's just one of these things where the execution of the movie as a whole, when you take in the dialogue into account, it kind of killed it for me. But definitely, I think there's an idea there that that could have been more than it was. It also feels very dated for its age. Like it felt to me like Stargate level of VFX, and I'm pretty sure Stargate was years before Chronicles of Riddick. And I really liked Stargate, but it felt like
good.
that. Yeah, I really enjoyed the original Stargate movie, but Riddick just felt dated very much looking at it. Some scenes better than others, but I thought the VFX looked like they didn't age well, and as I say, the dialogue just killed it for me. But you know what? So from that list, there's a few that I really enjoyed, and so starting with the positive, The Hunt and Guns Akimbo. I loved those movies. Those were two movies that I really thoroughly enjoyed. I didn't fall asleep at all. I watched them in a single sitting, and that says something. I don't know. Have you guys watched either of those movies? The Hunt or Guns Akimbo?
I've seen
In
The Hunt.
queue.
I've seen The Hunt, and The Hunt really surprised me because The Hunt it's billed as like a horror movie. You would think it will be something like what's the name of like The Purge? It sounds like it's The Purge.
Right.
The premise has a very purgy kind of feel to it, but it's a comedy. Like it's a satire, right? It's a political satire. And satires are, comedic in nature. But it's actually really funny, and it doesn't just ease you into like the hilarity of it all. As soon as it starts, it's just like you just start laughing, like, and it's quite good. It's written by somebody I don't know, and it's also written by our good friend, the guy who wrote Damon Lindelof.
Yes.
Right.
And if you know how Damon Lindelof writes, you will know the parts of The Hunt that he wrote. For example, like there's a parable about the tortoise and the hare. That's sort of like a theme that's used to describe the factions that are against each other in the film. So the hare is one of the factions, the tortoise is another of the factions. And then there's also a piglet that shows up time and time again like a motif. And those are things that Damon Lindelof does a lot in his writing. Like he obviously, if you've seen the Watchmen series, you'll see stuff like that, a lot of like motifs and symbols, and then using parables to make commentary on the film itself as sort of like an outside commentary, reflecting inside, the film. Very, very clever and very interesting storytelling devices. But I thought that was quite an interesting thing. So if you're a fan of Damon Lindelof, that'll tickle your intellect a bit. But yes, I know I was surprised. It's actually like really good. Betty Gilpin, that's the lead actress. Like she was fantastic. Yeah, I liked The Hunt. I did.
Nice.
I did not feel it dragging at all. You sit down, you press play, and I enjoyed it from beginning to end. And it's rare that I say that about a movie these days.
It's sitting in my queue, so it's one I'm ready to watch. I probably got to get my poor wife like she's got to get excited to watch it, because if not, I'm watching it by myself.
Well,
So.
my wife enjoyed it. She watched it with me. She enjoyed it, and
Cool.
I don't know that she was necessarily fired up to watch it, but she sat down, watched it, and it's like Lupe said, it's a good, smart comedy. And you guys know I'm pretty fussy about comedy. There's certain comedy that works for me, and certain comedy that does not work for me. And this
I'm
one,
ball busted. I'm sorry. I'm ball busted.
Yeah, no, if you're not a slapstick comedy, not like a knee slapping, quippy comedy person, you like this. It's satire. It's dark comedy, but it's intelligent. It's political, and I'm not politically interested. Let's say I just don't really care. I'm tired. I've tuned out the noise. But this makes everyone look like an asshole, and I kind of enjoy that. Right?
So I do, because although I am somebody I'm a proud liberal. Like I don't make any bones about sort of my progressive ideas and that kind of thing. But I like to think that I'm mature enough to see the faults that liberals have, as well as, I'm not a conservative because I think it's a faulty ideology. But I like movies that are not self I don't want to use a dirty word, but let's say I like political movies that are able to when they take a side of the argument, are able to criticize themselves. After all, that's what we're taught in school. Like, part of our education, if you write a paper at a good school, you always have to argue a point. Then you have to be able to look at your own point and be able to criticize it. And I think those arguments tend to ring the best and ring true and show a level of non-partisanship, a level of non-bias that shows that you're making your argument with a clear mind and with as much intellectual honesty at pursuing the truth, not winning an argument. And this film, The Hunt, does a lot of that. It really goes, you can tell that it's written by liberals, but then at the same time, you're not too sure, and it really goes hard at liberals. It's quite intelligent, as Paul said. It's well done.
Well, and sort of to that point, like without spoiling it, it goes a lot harder on liberals than I would have expected, and it goes hard on the type of liberals that I really wasn't aware of till we got on Twitter. And it's a vile, toxic side of the liberal I don't want to say liberal party. Just it's just I guess it's just the extreme left, right? Which you're not really exposed to in real life, but they come out of the woodwork on Twitter. And I would actually consider myself liberal. I mean, it's not a big part of my life trying to define myself as liberal or conservative, and probably I think people in general tend to get a little more conservative as you get older. But I would still say socially, I would consider myself liberal, and maybe I've become a little more financially conservative as time's gone on. But God, does it take some good shots at the at the extreme virtue signaling left that we encounter so much on social media. And there's even a shot at one of our favorite directors tied in with it. And Lupe, did you catch that one?
I didn't, or am I missing something? I didn't.
There was a scene when they were in that little that bunker, talking about a director that had been responding to their tweets online or something.
It was a good one. No, but I actually think, you know what, Paul, you and we need to review this movie. Because we have a lot to say about it. But I would agree with you that yes, it did. It took a shot at the director, but it also took a shot at the people who use that director as their signal for virtue signaling.
Yeah, that it's a better way of saying it, because it's not solely a shot at her, but it shows that she is a beacon and a guide for that segment who seeks her approval and validation. Also,
one thing, sorry, like, we're really like this movie it's like, talking through it more just shows you how good it is. Now, in that same bunker scene, there is a character, a guy who's balding and wears glasses. Do you remember him? I know he was a non-discreet character, so he may not have stuck out to you. But I think it was even the guy that talked about the director, that actually verbalized that sentence. Yeah. He looks exactly like Damon Lindelof.
Oh, does he?
Yeah,
I don't know that I've seen
exactly like Damon Lindelof.
Well, was it Damon Lindelof? I mean, did you check the credits?
It was not. No, because I know exactly what he looks like. So, I mean, the movie is just so impressive in that way. Like, this is a movie that's criticizing people, but then they played a tongue-in-cheek joke on the writer himself. And I don't know whether it was Lindelof's idea to have the character, but obviously he would have signed up on it, and I'm sure that they would have all have laughed about it. But, as we said, that's a good thing. It's good to be able to criticize yourself, criticize your people, criticize your ideology, criticize, I think that also brings us together more. So now we're not all perfect, and we can stop being self-righteous and stop being condescending to other people just because they see the world differently from us. And maybe in a particular thing they're wrong, but there are other things that we ourselves are wrong about, and we need to be able to all see that and not take it too seriously. And yeah.
It does.
You know,
It
I
does a
think
good
that
job at. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Christian.
I'm sorry, Paul. I didn't mean to hold your thought. Don't forget
Yep.
it. I think it's it goes to a wider conversation that yes, every now and then when you need to really enact change, extremism might be the only way to do it. But extremism is really bad. And there's nothing wrong with being liberal. There's nothing wrong with being conservative. There's nothing wrong with being a Green Party, Democrat, Republican, whatever it may be. But especially in this very hyper political world that I live in the United States, so our politics are out of control. The hyper right is nuts. The hyper left is nuts. And the rest of us that have more ideologies that borrow from each side have kind of been shunned. We've been kind of silenced now. And what you guys both said is 100% correct. If you have a comment or you feel a certain way, the other side almost immediately, boom, shuts you down. You're a complete idiot because you and I don't see eye to eye. So F you, you're done. So it's refreshing to hear you guys talking about a movie that clearly came from one ideology, but they're smart enough, savvy enough, funny enough, whatever you want to call it, to poke fun at every side. And that's why even shows like South Park and Family Guy are so great, because they don't care. They just make fun of everything.
So Christian, that's exactly what my point was going to be, is that it does it in such a way that it's very much like South Park. It makes everyone, it shows the flaws in everyone's ideology. And I don't think whether you're liberal leaning or conservative leaning, I think you could enjoy this movie regardless. And to be honest, I mean, even though we know that, Hollywood is typically very much liberal leaning, I didn't necessarily feel that this movie was made by, I mean, it almost certainly was made by people who are liberal leaning, but it didn't feel like that. It felt like it was taking equal shots. And that's one of the things I liked about this, because as I say, despite sort of seeing myself as liberal, I've been so turned off by extreme liberalism that that this was actually, I was very concerned about that going in, that it would be very liberal slanted. And if anything, I think it was the other way. So I think it was very well done. And I definitely recommend watching this one. And then go on.
Paul, I mean, you can go on about anything, but I really want to get into a conversation about The Matrix with you. And Christian, have you seen The Matrix?
All of them, and the Animatrix, which is fantastic.
Oh, nice. All right, so you can join in on the conversation with us. But Paul, go ahead, go wherever you want to go, but don't forget we need to spend some time on The Matrix.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's talk about a couple of the other new ones first, and then we can get back to The Matrix. So without going in depth as we did with The Hunt, because I'm probably the only one that's seen it here, Guns Akimbo is one that I would highly recommend. That was. Now, it's not everyone's cup of tea. It's ultra violent. It's actually a comedy. It's unusual. I saw one review that compared it a little bit to like Scott Pilgrim on crack kind of thing, right? Now, I've not seen Scott Pilgrim. I've had a lot of people recommend that one to me, but there is sort of a guy and his girlfriend, and but it's beyond that, I haven't seen the two to compare. But this is it's Daniel Radcliffe is really excellent in it. Some of the supporting characters, the comedy feels a little forced at times. It doesn't always hit, but as a whole, I enjoyed the style of the movie. The pacing was nonstop. It was genuinely funny for a good portion of the movie. As I say, some jokes missed, but it was really entertaining. And again, this is something I put on. And I wasn't playing on my phone. I didn't take 3 nights to watch it. I didn't fall asleep watching it. It grabbed my attention, and I watched it all the way through. And I'm looking forward to talking with you guys about this once you've seen it, because as I say, it's not for everyone, and other people might watch this and think it's terrible, but I thought it was pretty great, and I really enjoyed it. So looking forward to talking with you guys more about that one once you have an opinion on it. Other than that, I saw Bloodshot. I know, Lupe, you were less impressed with Bloodshot. I liked it. I didn't think it was great. I thought it was kind of generic, but it's the type of movie I enjoy. It's a sci-fi comic book movie that at least tries to take itself somewhat seriously. Has some cool elements, some cool visuals. Wasn't overly long. It felt a little short. What did you think about that one, Lupe? And Christian, did you see Bloodshot?
I haven't seen it yet. It's one that I've wanted to watch. You guys know me and my superhero addiction and my comic book
Mhm,
addiction, so I do want to watch it.
mhm,
It's just I haven't like gotten. I don't know why. It's not quite in the same realm of Birds of Prey for me, where it like turned me off completely.
mhm.
Um, but the more I heard about people talking about it online and everything, for a while I was kind of pumped for it, and now I'm kind of like, eh. Like I'll get to it when I get to it. But if we're gonna review it or something soon, then yeah, I'll watch it sooner.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, for me, I I was very disappointed by Bloodshot. Very, very disappointed. First off, Chris Vinaldo did a review of it and he raved about it. He
Hmm.
really enjoyed it. He really, said it needs to be supported. You need to support this kind of movie. So I went in with pretty high expectations. Also, I really liked the trailers. Like the trailers, they were cut really nice.
They
The
were.
concept that was laid out in the trailers was really, really, really good. Um, at the end of the day, it's not a bad movie at all. Honestly, it's not a bad movie. The only bad thing about it is I think Vin Diesel is just I think he's the wrong person for the character.
He
From an
he
aesthetic
he's
standpoint,
always Vin Diesel.
exactly. Always Vin Diesel, like he's the same, he's Dom. He is
Yeah.
Dom in this. Like he's
Yeah.
Dom
Just like he is in Chronicles of Riddick.
exactly.
He's always
And
Toretto.
the
Always Toretto.
the thing that's horrible about it is about Vin Diesel as an actor is just that when it comes to action, badass, hardcore stuff, he does a good job. Obviously, he doesn't have range in terms of it's the same acting technique, the same person, the same character, but it's very convincing. It has a decent level of threat and epicness to it. Um, but then when it comes to emotional beats, it just tanks all the way. He struggles so much when he's supposed to be in pain or feeling loss or feeling anguish or grief, or it just comes off as like he goes from being an A-level actor, with the action stuff, to being like a D-list actor with the emotional stuff. And unfortunately, this film does have quite a bit of emotional stuff going on. Um, I don't want to get into any spoilers, but if you've seen the trailer, you know that he's being manipulated in a way. He was recruited to be this super powered soldier through a tragic event. So when those elements come into play, the movie just takes a huge nosedive. Then also, although the movie looks good and special effects are good, and they did some really nice things with the design of like the nanobots and the way his powers are, the visual language of his powers. After watching the movie, it completely like just left my mind. It's a
Mhm.
very forgettable movie. Like I don't even care about seeing a sequel. I don't care to ever rewatch it. Like it's just and to me, that was a disappointment. Because I think that it had potential.
I kind of echo those sentiments, Lupe. Like maybe I don't feel as strongly as you. Like I also was one of those people that said, go out and support this one, and I made sure I went and bought my digital copy
Mhm.
the morning of release, and I was looking forward to watching it. And I say I did enjoy it. It just comes across as a little generic. Like
Mhm.
there's just nothing about it that blows you away or is memorable. But there was, you know, like you say, the visual depiction of his powers was interesting, but we got some of that from the trailers. You get a little bit more in the movie,
Yep.
but you saw some of the best scenes in the trailers. You just get the context when you watch the movie, and I thought there was some great use of color and cinematography. There's some slow mo and speed ramping that that reminds me a little bit of some of Snyder's style that I enjoy. Um, so visually, it has some great elements, but everything else just kind of feels a little flat. But
Mm.
it's the type of movie that I wanted to support because it's not a it's a science fiction based comic book movie that doesn't rely on slapstick comedy or quips and banter.
Mhm.
And I just feel like if you want to see more of that type of movie, we're at that point where that type of movie is about to go extinct if we don't
Mhm.
support it. And so for that reason, I'm glad I paid for it, but
Mhm.
now having seen it, is that the type of movie I'd rush out and buy to add to my digital collection on day one? Probably not.
Well, I have a question for you, Paul. Do you think it would have been better or more interesting, or would it have been better for Bloodshot to have just been R-rated? Would there have been any benefits of that?
Maybe if they really pushed the limits a little, and I don't mean like dropping F-bombs, like Birds of Prey, was yeah, well, I don't want to bash Birds of Prey. Let me put. I'll keep my. I'm gonna give you my quick review of Birds of Prey.
Oh my God.
There were 4 movies that I had grouped together at a certain level of quality: Thor Ragnarok, The Last Jedi, Daredevil theatrical cut, and
Oh
there was
God.
one. Actually, no, there was 3. Birds of Prey is the 4th.
Jesus
And I think
Christ, you put Last Jedi with Daredevil, dude.
Yeah,
I might lose respect for
and
you.
this actually might be the worst of the bunch.
Oh my
And it is the I'm trying to put this
He's having
nice.
trouble.
It is just the opposite of a movie made for me. And if that is the director's vision, I'm glad she was able to make it for the audience that enjoys that type of film. But that is the complete opposite of everything I would want to see in my comic book movie. Just try hard, want to be edgy comedy aimed at college girls with a super annoying lead character and ridiculous costuming in a Gotham I didn't recognize as Gotham, and just nothing worked. And of course the humor is all about playing off the basically making fun of misogyny, and I get what they're going for, and there's a couple times you could say, yeah, that might be funny, but it just tried so hard and just missed so badly for me. But I'm glad for the people that liked it, that they liked it. And as I say, I only watched the first half. I couldn't keep going. Maybe it gets better, but for me, that was it.
Get better.
But
I did enjoy it, but it doesn't get better. It's not like this huge.
It's more of the same, right? It's exactly what you expect
there's
from
not this
Trailer.
huge shift. Yeah, it's what you get from the beginning is what you get all the way to the end. So if you like that, I didn't think it was that. I didn't think it was bad at all. But I'm not about to say like it's a great movie or anything. I actually prefer it to Aquaman. I think it's a better movie than Shazam. I think those are. Are there any other DCEU movies?
I like Shazam better than this one, and that's saying something because I was not a fan of Shazam, but at least my wife and daughter like Shazam. But yeah, this was by far the worst DCEU movie in my opinion. But again, I can appreciate that maybe the director got to make the movie she wanted for her target audience. That's just not me, and that's okay. That's fine. If I'm not saying every movie has to be catered to me, but this one definitely was not my taste. Let's put it that way. But to your question about Bloodshot, Lupe, do I think it could have been better if they went for the R rating? Yes, if they push some boundaries, but not in the Birds of Prey way, in a different way that made you feel more. Like I think you kind of hit on it, where it should be an emotional film. I didn't really feel anything watching this movie though, and maybe they just could have done more with an R rating to make you feel what was going on a little bit. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think the R rating would have made a difference on Bloodshot?
R rating is an interesting thing because for a lot of us, when we hear R rating, the first thing we think about is blood and nudity and curse words. But there was a director. It was James Mangold talking about Logan. He says the thing about an R rating is that once you say R rating, you're given the latitude to make a film for a more adult audience. And when you talk about more adults, you're talking about more intellectually mature, more intelligent, wiser. So you can add more, intelligent elements to the film and probably do maybe some political critiques and, hit some hard, subjects that you wouldn't be hitting in a movie that's, made by people who are making a film for 10-year-olds. Inside joke.
We should talk honestly making a film
we get
that's
to the
just
week's
for mass, mass consumption.
Yeah.
I think that's Mangold he's rapidly become one of my favorite filmmakers, and I can't believe I didn't see more of his movies long ago, and I've been trying to catch up on a lot of them. And he's and some of his comments have he can be a little annoying with some of his comments, but he makes extremely good points. And you nail it. I don't think a movie has to be R or PG-13 to be good, quote unquote. I've seen PG movies that are fantastic because of what they're going for, right?
Mhm.
But Logan could not have been a PG-13 movie.
Mhm.
Couldn't have been.
Mhm.
No way. And not just because people are getting sliced up and everything. It's just what they were going for in that movie.
Mhm.
You wouldn't be able to do that, I think, with a PG-13
Yeah.
movie. It's just, and the violence wasn't just violent to be violent. It was part of the story about this 250-year-old soldier that had lived a life of violence, and he was going to die that way. And how could you change that? So I haven't seen Bloodshot, but if it's like that in any way, maybe it didn't need it. So like Paul was saying, it's like if they're just going to push the envelope to just throw a bunch of F-bombs and blood, then why have the R? But if they can tell their story, so you know what I mean? Like, I see where you guys are going. I'll shut up now because you were making a point. Sorry.
No, but yeah, no, but you nailed it. You even raised something that's very interesting. If you're making a movie about soldiers, when it's a more mature movie, you're able to go into things like post-traumatic stress disorder and
Right.
things that happen to people who use violence. Like a lot of soldiers, if you I've seen documentaries and they talk about the fact that these are people they're regular people, and then they go into a situation where they're trained to be killers and they end up, killing people in war. How does that affect people? Those are not things that kids who just want a fun trademark movie will be interested in. They want to see the joy and the badassness and the coolness of being the superhero, not the downside. So those are the things I think at our rating would have given them the incentive to pursue, or hopefully would have, and that's the only way.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think that R rating could have helped.
Well, and this movie had the absolute worst theatrical release date possible, right? Like this came out the night everything went into lockdown, and if they were trying to maintain a PG-13 rating to make it open to a broader audience, well, that flopped because once it goes to video on demand, I don't think that remains as prohibitive, right? Like, so like the R rating wouldn't be as prohibitive on video on demand, so they could have potentially, pushed a little bit more. But I can't think specifically about what I'd have to sit down and think about what specifically they could have done differently. I just felt like it was lacking something, and what that is, I'm having a hard time putting my finger on. But yeah, so. Yeah, not to beat Bloodshot to death, but I'd still recommend watching it. Give it a watch, see what you think. If you go with lower expectations, you might enjoy it more, but it is a bit of a generic CBM.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'll go very quickly through the rest of my stuff here. Ford versus Ferrari, I mentioned. I watched the first half. Really enjoyed the first half, but that's one that I mentioned to you guys, I think in the past, we put a theater in the basement, and I wanted to watch that one with good theatrical sound. And I watched the first half with my wife, and it's just been a struggle to find a time when we can get down there and watch the second half of it. But I'm still very much looking forward to watching the second half of that movie because I really did enjoy the first half. Cats. My daughter was very excited about seeing Taylor Swift in Cats. We watched the first 10 minutes of that movie, and we all just looked at each other like, what on earth are we watching?
Dude,
Wow.
I think I did the same thing. I can't watch it.
Oh my God!
What the hell am I watching?
Do you typically enjoy musicals? Sorry, just
Love it.
I do typically enjoy musicals. Yeah, I enjoy
Broadway.
Yep.
Love Broadway.
Me too. But Cats, I never did see Cats on Broadway or in the theater, but I'm sorry, in as a musical. But is it close? Is that what it was like when you see it on stage?
Not to me. Not to me.
That
I
was
thought this was phenomenally different. I watched the musical twice on Broadway, and this was totally different. I don't know what I was watching. I couldn't. With our sister podcast, there's Millennial Mike. He's been telling me to watch this thing, and I want to get through it. I'm trying, guys. I tried like the first 15 minutes and just look like, what the fuck am I watching right now? So I can't. So I had to take a break. Maybe I'll try it again.
After 10 minutes, we said we're not watching this anymore. My wife said just fast forward to the Taylor Swift parts. I couldn't find Taylor Swift. We got to the end. I was like, where the hell is Taylor Swift? And then I said, do you want me to go back and try again? They're both like, no. So that was it. That was our entire experience with Cats.
Are you trying to tell me that Taylor Swift, it was like a bait and switch? Like they
Well, she's in there somewhere, but it must have been so brief that I couldn't find her.
That's insane because the whole thing is marketed using Taylor Swift.
You know, I mean, as I say, I was fast forwarding. Maybe I was fast forwarding too fast. I don't know,
But still,
I assumed she'd have a sizable role. So you know,
yeah.
where I was stopping, she wasn't there, and then all of a sudden we were at the end of the movie. So I'm guessing it might not have been a huge role for her, or maybe maybe I just missed entire chunks of the film. But yeah, it was something.
It was something.
It actually, you know what? It made Birds of Prey look good.
Oh my God.
At least Birds of Prey is not the worst movie that you've seen.
Yeah.
So.
You know what? The other one I would have put in that list was Guardians of the Galaxy. That's the one I couldn't remember.
Hey.
Yo, I love Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah.
No, that one was one of the ones that I cringed right out of my seat to the point that we were going to walk out of the theater.
Oh, you
get
it.
So anyway, finishing up my list here. I know. Okay, so I'll keep this one short. Sonic the Hedgehog. We watched it a couple nights ago. It's a kids movie. My daughter liked it.
Yeah.
But it is a kids movie, and
I enjoyed it.
I did too. I agree. Though it is a
kids movie.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna make any bones about it. And there's a huge nostalgia factor to it. It's funny because Sonic is such a. It's harsh to say, but he is not a well-defined character. Let me put it that way. In terms of pop culture, even with the Sega video games, characters like Mario and Sonic, like the best history we'd get on them would be like reading the manual, and they'd say something about how Sonic is like a super cool, fast hedgehog, and his rival is Knuckles, and that's the most you get out of it. And the rest you have to just use your imagination. But still, just seeing the character brought to life, it pleases the senses, aka nostalgia.
Yeah, I would agree. And I actually got to admit, I was one of those people, and trust me, I get the argument over creative vision and that first, to me, that first look of Sonic was horrible. It was horrible. And if they went with it, fine, they would have went with it. I still probably would have not seen it in theaters because I was not planning on seeing it in theaters anyway. And I would have seen it when it was on digital. But I liked this. I liked the design of Sonic so much better. I really did.
Yeah. I can't front. Same.
Yeah, I can't. And I feel bad because sometimes I agree with you guys about creative vision stuff, and now I'm a complete freaking hypocrite by saying this. But I got to,
exact same. And to be sincere, I know that the movie was well received and it made a good amount of money, and there's definitely going to be a sequel. I'm very happy about that. And if the design was not altered, it would have distracted from the fact that it's a darn good movie.
Yeah.
It's really, really, really good.
Really? You guys like this one more than me. I thought it was generic and maybe not generic's the right word, but super simple. Like I tuned out for 20 minutes and didn't miss anything.
Oh, it's simple.
It's simple. It's a simple plot, but you know what it is? The character. So now I sound like someone defending the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
You've become me.
They have such a deep love of the character. Oh my God!
Me, Lupe.
But you know what it is? I'm not proclaiming it to be the greatest thing since sliced bread. That's the difference with me. Okay, I'll put that. I'm not saying Sonic changed cinema and Sonic is the best video game movie ever. I don't even think it is.
I do that.
People have said that.
No, not you, but no, Marvel. A lot of there was somebody.
Stans.
Marvel fans.
Stans.
Yeah, but no, but I think that they really. It's funny to say that they nailed the character of Sonic so well because he was never well defined. But how you would imagine a speedster to act. So okay, let me make this comparison for people who have seen Justice League and have seen The Flash. Now, you guys know I'm a huge fan of Zack Snyder. I'm a huge fan of what DC was trying to do with their universe. But I thought The Flash was horrible in Justice League. Mm-hmm. And I'm not even talking about Joss Whedon's terrible writing. Even the stuff that Zack Snyder was in charge of, because I just don't think Zack Snyder is good at comedy. And I think that there was this sort of pressure to force comedy into the universe. But anyway, the way you would what Ezra Miller and I would say and Zack Snyder and Joss Whedon got wrong, in my opinion. Not wrong, but because it's subjective. But for me, got wrong for me with Flash as a speedster is that they have this guy who's a speedster and he's awkward and clumsy and goofy and dorky and but not even in an endearing, charming way. It's in an off-putting, almost demeaning way, a way that demeans his character, in my opinion. What I love about Sonic was that he was cool as hell. Like this character that you're like, you're cool, you're awesome, you're charming, you're in control, you're brave, you're, you know, that sort of thing. But he still has, you know, that sort of almost darky, really quick, witty sort of thing that you'd expect of a speedster. So I think that they really did a good job defining that character, and you were just pleased to spend as much time with him as possible.
I think you guys have a much greater attachment to the character than I do, because I didn't get all that from Sonic.
I'm okay with admitting that. That's what I said. I said nostalgia from the beginning. Like, I'm not.
I didn't. You know? I didn't feel all that. No, in fairness to the Flash too, as well. I don't think we've seen enough of Snyder's Flash to know what we're getting. I mean, I think most of what we got in there, like, for example, when I think of Bruce Wayne in the Flash's apartment there. Most of that scene was Snyder, and most of that scene worked. What kind of went off the rails is when he forced in that Whedon brunch scene at the end to tie in with that cheesy Superman Flash race at the end for brunch, right? Take away that, the Flash scene works. I kind of liked what Snyder was doing with the Flash, at least in my opinion, from what we saw. And who knows what's in the actual movie. Hopefully, we'll get to see that, you know, some point in the not too distant future. But I don't know. I don't see the correlation between what they're doing with. I mean, aside from the fact that they run fast, I mean, I think Sonic was very much, to me at least, was much more of a cartoonish kind of character that couldn't work in a more serious film. So
no, but basically, I'm just looking at it in terms of archetypes of characters. So, for example, speedsters. So, for example, examples of other speedsters that we've seen is Quicksilver in the Fox. X-Men movies, and that's a speedster that's cool, that has, you know, like a coolness to him.
He's also a little awkward too, though, I would say. No,
yeah, he is, but
he's awkward.
He's awkward, but still at the same time you can see he has, like, there's a level of coolness to him. But I just felt like Ezra Miller's Flash is constantly awkward. You see the way he was running, like, dude. It wasn't just Whedon that made him run like that.
No, they came up with something. Didn't they base that on speed skating or something? I thought I read that somewhere.
I do not care.
Either way, I completely disagreed.
It was
a terrible decision, no matter what. It's
okay.
That
may have been Snyder's, but I don't think that was an intent to make him look awkward. I think it was more based on something they came up with to, more along the lines of how do we make it look real. I think that was more the rationale behind that. As I say, I think, and I could be wrong, but I thought I remember reading somewhere that they were trying to sort of incorporate the movements of a speed skater into his running style, which admittedly didn't work very well. But I don't think that was because they were trying to show him as awkward.
No, I don't think so either. I just think that Ezra Miller just, and a lot of that I'll put on because, you know, characters bring their own sensibilities. And one thing I know about Snyder is that he's a collaborator. He allows actors to define the characters and add elements that they feel are important to characters. You hear it in interviews all the time. Like, even like Henry Cavill brought a lot of his idea of what Superman would be and how he'd react to that role. Ben Affleck did the same thing. I've heard Ray Fisher talk about him with Cyborg, and, you know, so a lot of that has to do with Ezra Miller, because I feel like if Zack Snyder gave me a direction and then Joss Whedon gives me another direction, there will be sort of a middle point or something that he brings. I'm basically saying that the common factor that I see between those two elements is Ezra Miller. And so he's the one that I lay most of that blame on. Yeah, but anyway, that's a huge tangent.
You know, you raise a good point, though. I think that, you know, I still think there was a conscious decision. I will probably blame the director more than Ezra there, because he could still put his foot down and say, no, you're not doing that. I think there was a conscious decision to make Flash clumsy, awkward, It's just, it was a decision that was, I 100% disagree with it. I don't think it was a good decision. Ezra Miller can be endearing in that performance at times, but to me, it doesn't work with the rest of the universe that they were building up, that Zach was building up. But I think there was definitely a difference there than Sonic. Sonic was childish. There was nostalgia there. Absolutely. But like you said, I don't think they were trying to make him a bumbling, awkward speedster. He was cool. He was cool. I think, and I think
he was certainly cool. Yeah.
He was cool. It was, but totally different movie though. Like Paul said, I mean, it's, you know, Batman versus Superman and the original Justice League before the cuts were going in a different direction than Sonic was going. Definitely.
Well, and I think you know, last thing I'm going to say on Justice League, or at least for now on Justice League, we may talk later, but I think the social awkwardness was Snyder's character for him. I think the physical clumsiness was Whedon playing for gags. That's my own impression, but that's sort of the feel I have from Justice League. Anyway, so you know, again, I've hogged a lot of time here. Other than that, the only things I was going to talk about was, you know, mention that I watched The Invisible Man. Lupe, I know you were a big fan of that one. I don't know if you want to talk about that.
Loved it. Lee Winnell, that dude, he's a beast. He is an absolute monster, an alien, an interdimensional, intergalactic monster of interstellar proportions. He's like he's on his way. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that he's going to go from strength to strength. I can't wait to see what he does next, and I hope he doesn't become one of these directors that gets caught up in the system, because obviously studios are going to see him as, oh, this dude is dope, so we can use him to make a lot of money. And what they end up doing is taking someone who has this talent, the talent that they want, then, you know, throwing like hundreds of millions of dollars at him in a franchise, and then asking them to make something that's not based on their talents. So freaking weird. So I hope that his next movie, I hope he's able to do bigger stuff. Definitely. I'm excited to see him, you know, do even franchise stuff with immense budgets, but I'm hoping to see him keep his artistic soul, which is one reason why I love Zack Snyder and something that Zack Snyder was able to do, to the chagrin of his haters. He was able to make massive blockbuster movies with the most iconic characters and still be himself regardless, and that's admirable. And I'm hoping the same thing for Lee Winnell. What he did with Upgrade, I always tell people, like, that's. Have you seen Upgrade, Paul?
Yes, I enjoyed that one quite a bit.
Yeah. I was about to say, if you hadn't, that would have been a huge oversight. But Invisible Man, it's people talk about, oh no, don't reboot things or don't, you know, reimagine things, and this is an example of how, you know, it's a gamble. Yes, it can flop, it can be an eyesore, and it could desecrate the name of something that's iconic and something that's legendary, but at the same time, you can get the Invisible Man. And one thing that's good about the Invisible Man is that it's a quote-unquote feminist movie. It's a movie that is basically about quote-unquote toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
Fucking word. I never used these words before. But it's done in a sophisticated way. It doesn't bash you over the head with it. The message is subdermal, and it's all in subtext, and it's about intelligent people bringing that message to light. And then, you know, and I've seen a bunch of movies that just haven't done a good job with the subtext of their political message, and they turn it into self-aggrandizing, virtue signaling, self-righteous pontification, standing in a soapbox and telling everyone that, you know, you're horrible and you're bad, and I'm the, you know, most righteous person in the world, and I'm here to save you from your iniquities. And it's a turn up to people, and it just, your message will fall on deaf ears. And I've noticed that. So Birds of Prey is guilty of that, unfortunately.
It hits you over the head with it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, really bad.
But,
also,
but
I'm watching Charlie's Angels, and it's guilty of that too. Both of them, in my opinion, fun movies, not bad, but those are elements that the creators need to get better at. Being able to send their those messages are very important. For example, like Paul, you have a daughter, so you know you want her to live in a world where, you know, where she has equal chance and she's respected just for who she is, and people aren't taking advantage of her or seeing her as weak. We all want that, but you got to make sure that that message is relayed in an intelligent and mature way, and not in a way that's turning off your intended audience. So anyway, I went to
Well, and I think to that point, Invisible Man didn't generalize about men. This was
Mm-hmm.
about a toxic character, or a character who had those sort of elements of toxic masculinity. But it didn't make a commentary about men as a whole, right? Which I think is more off-putting than if it's within character for a character where it makes sense, right?
Very true. Very, very true. Very, very, very true. Because one thing I noticed, because I was while we're talking about Birds of Prey, we're trying to analyze why it failed financially, which was very shocking. Because these movies, it's like a layup. It's like when you make like a feminist kind of movie, it's like it should be a layup. But where they went wrong is they generalized about men, and it's full of horrible male characters, no redeeming male characters, nothing for a guy who's watching it or who's thinking about watching it to latch onto and say, okay, I see myself in this person, even if it's on the subconscious level, and I want to partake in this story, and I'm going to be receptive to its messages. You look at Wonder Woman, Wonder Woman is massively feminist. You don't even have to.
Sure it is.
Yeah, but
Sure
it had Steve Pine in it. Who was Roger?
Steve Trevor.
Yeah,
Steve
Chris
Trevor.
Pine, who's Steve Trevor in it, and his character is an example of a good person, of a good man, and showing that in the world there are good men, there are bad men, just like there are bad women. Also in the movie, one of the villains was a woman. Also, if you look at something like Black Panther, so for example, Black Panther is a movie that it has a pro-black sort of agenda to it, but there's a character in it that's a good, and obviously even in the Marvel Cinematic Universe in general, there are Caucasian and characters of other races who are actually good. Showing that it's no movie that's saying, okay, all white people are bad.
I think that's a great point. Wonder Woman, and Man of Steel to me are my two favorite in the DCEU, the DCEU. So I love Man of Steel and Wonder Woman. I like the rest too, to varying degrees, but those two to me are just fantastic. And Wonder Woman they could have beat you senseless with that message if they wanted to, because Diana could destroy Steve Trevor in 2 seconds flat if she wanted to. She could rip him in half, but he's still a fantastic character in his own right, and she needs him for all kinds of reasons. Not to be her protector, but she's helping him as he's helping her as she's navigating now, going into our world and understanding who she is. And there were even her getting across the no man's land scene, which is just an incredible scene in comic book movies. He still helps her. The team helps her. There's that great symbiotic relationship. And you're right, Black Panther could have gone the route with just white dude bad, black guy good. And they could have gone that route. They didn't. There was a pretty good cast there, and there was a lot of commentary in there about post-colonialism and a lot of other things that were going on. And Eric is a interesting enemy, and I'm pissed off that they killed him off, because I think he could have been better moving forward. But he was a great enemy for Wakanda, and for what they were trying to do as they tried to, out themselves from coming out pretending to be a third world country and really being a first world country. I agree with you. Those two movies in particular could have beat you over the head with their messages, and I think they both did it very well. But Wonder Woman probably did it better, but they did it well.
Yeah. So Paul, go ahead. I was just commenting on your movie.
Yeah, no, so I don't necessarily think I have a whole lot more to say about Invisible Man. I enjoyed that one. Again, it's something, I could watch with my wife, which was always a plus when we, sometimes struggle to find movies that we both enjoy. So yeah, I think it was good. I think it was well done, and I'd recommend watching that one. I may not have loved it as much as you did, Lupe, but I thought it was pretty good.
How did you I know you're a huge fan of sci-fi. So how did you like the execution of the sci-fi elements in the film, and what did that make an impression on you as a sci-fi fan?
Well, I'm trying to think. if I can even really say anything without spoiling it. I thought it was okay. I did like the incorporation of that element. I think I had some questions about. I mean, it's one of those ones where you don't want to think too hard about it, right? I guess.
Of course,
Like
yeah.
I like the concept, you just don't want to think too hard about it. And then especially as things start happening, that that make you further question if it would continue to work the way they're portraying. You just kind of block it out and go with the idea, and for that I was fine with it. So I like the incorporation of the sci-fi idea, I guess. Just don't think too hard, I guess, would be my advice.
No, but even like, because if you've seen, like, they do documentaries on future technologies and that sort of thing, and one of the ideas that they've had about how to make
Yes.
someone invisible, it's one of the ideas that they used that I thought was actually, like, it was quite clever to use that concept.
Yes.
Obviously, when you think a lot deeper on it, it breaks down. But I like the fact that they used the concept that this is the way that you could possibly do someone being invisible, and that's no spoiler.
No, I totally agree, Lupe. That's exactly what I meant. I mean, I like the concept. I've heard of it before. When I saw it in the film, I recognized it immediately and thought, okay, that I've seen this before. It's a plausible idea, but it's just how effective it is, and then once it starts taking damage, I guess I don't think that's a huge spoiler. How it continues to function, that's kind of one of the other questions I would have too. But overall, I thought it's a cool idea. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now, since you've discussed all those in depth, let the three of us go into Matrix, and I will start by saying this: I was so happy. So delighted.
I know you love the Matrix.
so warmed in my heart by the fact that you watched the Matrix with your daughter.
Yep. I've been trying to talk her into it for about maybe 6 months now, and finally she decided she wanted to watch it. I said, "Okay, you want to watch it?" She says, "Yep." I said, "Okay, let's watch it." And she loved it. I had to pause it a couple of times to explain to her the concept of what's going on. And she'd have a few questions and to answer those questions, but she was able to follow, and she really liked it. At one point she said where after the movie she said, she goes, is this real? I'm like talking about like our own life. I'm like, yes,
here we go.
I'm like the Matrix is fiction. It's just a cool idea, but it tells you that she got the concept, and she's starting to question our own reality. And I was like, that's neat that you got it, but relax, don't worry. We are in the real world, she's
are you sure?
Yeah, are you sure? Wow, that's right. Am I sure, or is the Matrix just that good? Am I making a mistake? But no, I was actually really pleased that she liked it, and she's looking forward to watching 2 and 3. And when you show a kid those kind of movies, it can go very badly and totally turn them off. So it's taken a little bit of a gamble, because it's a movie that I really enjoy, and I hesitated a little bit to show it to her, because you don't want to show it to her when she's too young, have it turn her off the subject matter, and then never revisit it, right? So I was glad she enjoyed it, though. And there was a few scenes where I was a little concerned about how much violence there was. I forgot about the scene where they go to free Morpheus, and they just unload the weapons locker. They come in and like full, like trench coats, full weapons.
And they're flipping off the walls, just pumping bullets into people.
like concrete flying everywhere. There's nothing left of the concrete pillars by the time they're done. But I'm like, no, those are computer programs. Relax, they're just computer programs.
Even though it's poor people connected to the freaking Matrix game.
Yeah, I didn't reinforce that point after the fact. But yeah, no, but you know what? It went well, and that movie does hold up. And I can even see, and Lupe, you probably have more stronger feelings or more maybe keen observations on this, but I think Snyder took a lot of influence from The Matrix in some of his filmmaking style.
Yeah.
It's a very influential series.
Yeah,
like Zack Snyder is he's a descendant of the Wachowskis. In case a lot of people don't know that, like, a lot of his style derives from what they did. So things that you can 100% key into are, one, big ideas in blockbuster movies. Also his style of shooting action scenes. So not a lot of like cutting and, herky jerky stuff, a lot of like locked down, showing full frame, showing people actually doing stunts. Also Chad Stahelski, who was a stunt guy on The Matrix, and I think he graduated to being one of the stunt coordinators later on in the franchise. He also worked with Zack Snyder early, before he went on to make actual movies of his own. So yeah, and Zack Snyder's a huge fan. Like, he talks about, he makes Matrix references, like he makes Arthurian references. So yeah, and obviously we look at Man of Steel. Also, when you watch the third one, you'll see that the final fight between Morpheus and Agent Smith is very much like the final fight between Zod and Kal-El. Yes,
that was one of the things that jumped out at me. Like you see, and also the visual style a little bit, like with the hyper detailed slow mo and speed ramping. Even the death and resurrection of Neo reminded me immediately of Superman, the Superman arc, and having him come back more aware and more powerful, which I know Jay Oliva had hinted at, with how he was supposed to come back in Justice League, because I'd actually questioned the whole freeze breath thing with Jay Oliva online a couple of years ago now, and he sort of defended it, saying that they had come up with the idea that he would come back more powerful. And I didn't think that was executed well in the Whedon cut, because I thought, well, how is he just going to come back and not only suddenly have freeze breath but know how to use it? Like, where did that come from? And I feel that they probably would have executed that better, that it wouldn't just come out of the blue and all of a sudden he's blasting freeze breath like he's always known he's had it and always known what to do. And I'm getting sidetracked here, but freeze breath is just my own personal sticking point for the Superman character.
Yeah, I hate it, and I actually think, I don't think Zach even likes it. I really want to see the context of it, whether it's in there, how it's used, because Zach was asked about freeze breath in Man of Steel by, obviously, your favorite bloggers, and what does he use freeze breath?
What if he throw his S?
Exactly.
God. The S and the freeze breath are just terrible.
They are bad.
Zach alluded to the fact that he didn't like freeze breath.
Well, it's terrible.
It's one of those. It comes from like the 70s, that very zany, goofy era. It's not. And actually, I'm trying to remember. I think that it was never a power of his until Donner introduced it, and then after it was used a bit. I think that's what the powers that Donner introduced.
No, and that's actually funny. It's funny you say that, because I actually said that to Jay Oliva. I said I would have bet my life that this was a Jeff Johns, Joss Whedon tribute to Donner Superman. And he's like, nope, Zach and I, he goes, I think he said something along the lines that he'd drawn it in, and that it was something, it played on the idea that he came back more powerful, and then he sort of went into the whole, like, Man of Steel was depowered Superman, and this was him coming back.
Not to psychoanalyze, but I will firmly believe that that's one of the things that Zach added because of all the pressure from nostalgia babies. Because I remember him specifically saying that it wasn't a power that he was fond of, and he said something to the effect of, just because he didn't use it doesn't mean he doesn't have it. That was his kind of like cop out.
Yeah.
But I remember him specifically not being a fan of it.
In Man of Steel, he's still kind of figuring stuff out. He's figuring who he is, and he just learned how to fly. And freeze breath, from a comic perspective, actually does go all the way back to Action Comics. So it was there. It was there a long time ago. I think it started in like issue 20 or 21. But who gives a crap? I mean, it's, like you guys know how much I love the X-Men. I adore the X-Men. I do not necessarily want to see the X-Men go to hell, or they've done all kinds of crap like that in the X-Men comics. So they don't necessarily have to adapt every single little dumb thing to the character. And
not according to bloggers.
I know. But throwing the S, where the hell did that come from? I mean, it's it's just
so bad.
It's just the fuck? And then why didn't he just continue to use that? Did he just have infinite S's that he could just start chucking out of his chest? It's just, I don't, so the whole thing is weird. But yeah, I mean, it comes down to interpretation of the character. And, the three of us have talked about this before. I always felt that the Man of Steel version was trying to create a Kal-El that would be existing in our post 9/11 world. And there are gods. It's interesting. Yes, we have these superpowered beings and stuff, but the freeze breath, does that fit? Whatever. If they tried to do it, that's cool. But I don't. If they left it out, I would have been fine with that too. It's a weird power.
Yeah, I mean, if Man of Steel was depowered Superman, then I like depowered Superman. That's my Superman. I don't need him to be any more powerful than that. Yeah.
Actually, Batman v Superman Superman is supposed to be more powerful than Man of Steel Superman, because I was having a discussion with, I'm not sure who it was, or maybe it was Zach that mentioned it in a somewhere, that okay, so you saw when he did the heat vision.
That was Jay Oliva. That was in that same conversation I was talking about. He said that Man of Steel he couldn't see while he was doing it. He couldn't control it, right?
He couldn't, yeah. And
then in BVS he'd mastered it.
BVS he was better at it. He was, and you could even see the intensity of it, or the weight of it. It's like more plasmic. It has more plasma, vibrating from it. So I really like that concept, because that's also one thing that, and they may not have done this on purpose, but one thing you notice about Superman before Crisis on Infinite Earth is he was just getting stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger, to the point where he could like toss the Earth off its axis. And so that would have been really cool to see a Superman who just continually gets stronger and stronger and gets to a point of just being like this sort of incredible being, and then he'll have to face off against something like Darkseid, or the god of DC Universe, whatever that is.
Agreed.
Yeah. So also, I know you guys haven't finished your marathon or whatever, but as a Star Wars fan, so my thing with the Matrix, obviously, I've always said that the Matrix is a better universe than Star Wars, whatever. But that's my personal, obviously, preference. So what do you think about, the fact that they're going to, it's not a reboot. I haven't found the right word to use to describe it, but it's sort of like to reignite, reinvigorate, like, they're gonna resurrect. It might be resurrect, might be the word to use, although it sounds a bit morbid. But they're going to resurrect the Matrix universe and tell more stories in the universe. What do you think about that? As a Star Wars fan, someone who's deeply invested, both of you should answer this, as Star Wars fans who are deeply invested in such an expansive universe that does a very good job of exhausting the possibilities and the resources. What do you think of the Matrix expanding and telling stories in that universe?
Well, you know what? I'll jump in here because I do actually have to run shortly, and I mean, if my choice is more Matrix or no more Matrix, I'm going to take more Matrix. I want to see more of that world. I don't think it's not a reboot. I'm glad they're not rebooting. I don't know exactly what it is, but I mean, in that Matrix world where there's sort of this cyclical looping prophecy, right? I'm sure they can play with something and make it work, right? I'm sure they can come up with a good concept that will at least allow you to buy in within the parameters of that world. And I'm ready for more Matrix. I'm really looking forward to watching Matrix Reloaded and to a lesser extent Revolutions. It's been a while since I've seen them. I really liked the second Matrix at the time.
It's really good.
I thought it was great.
So underrated. Like,
yeah, I don't understand.
You see it again. When last did you rewatch it?
You know what? It probably would have been the year the movie came out. I would have bought the DVD, and I probably watched it once or twice on DVD, and I don't think I've seen it since. So I'm ready to watch this one again.
Oh, you're in for it. The other thing is, well, you're watching it with your daughter, and
yeah, there's a couple of scenes.
There's a couple. There's a couple.
All right, should I pre-screen this one then?
You might want to. The Rave comes to mind. The Rave comes.
Is the Rave in number 2 or number 3?
There are 2 sex scenes. There is a very intense scene with Monica Bellucci
I was going to say I know Monica Bellucci's in it. I don't remember the scene though. I remember
Oh, yeah.
I do clearly remember her being in the movie, but I can't
Oh,
remember.
yeah.
the scene.
Oh,
She
yeah.
it's not a sex scene, but Monica Bellucci is like one of the sexiest women to have ever. Just the way she moves and the way she talks, and there is a scene. It's just like she's vibrating. That's all I got. Like she is. Woo!
I'll have my finger on the fast forward button.
Yeah,
Yeah, do a preview. Do a
that's,
preview.
that's what you need to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then also going into it, this is how I look at it. So the first one is kind of like an introduction into the Matrix, and then the second and the third is going deeper into the rabbit hole. So the philosophy is going to get more esoteric. The spiritualism is going to get more intense. So all those concepts that they alluded to, they're going to go deeper. And I think that was one thing that a lot of people, I'll say, were caught off guard by. Because the first one is like a cool action movie with slight hints at a bigger world and with a very intriguing sort of mystery that unravels in such a well-written way. But then the other ones, they go deeper into what the Matrix is talking about philosophically, spiritually, whether you want to think of it in scientifically, whatever. So I think I'm happy that you're rewatching it because the sequels get a bad rap. And I think it has to do with, there's this thing that happens with movies that come out of nowhere and are hyped. A backlash happens. It happens a lot. I've seen it happen with a lot of movies. And I think it was just a backlash of where it was just so big that people were like, oh, we're going to take it down a peg or two. They started doing spoofs of it and that kind of thing. But I'm happy that you're rewatching it. And I can't wait to hear your verdict.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to looking at those movies with a fresh set of eyes as well. I mean, I enjoyed them when they came out. I definitely remember enjoying 2 more than 3, but I still enjoyed 3, and I've never understood. I to be honest, I didn't even know probably until the last 2 or 3 years that people saw 2 and 3 as poor movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I just thought
great.
it was a widely loved trilogy. I had no idea. So I'm looking forward to seeing those again.
I think it goes back to the nostalgia conversation too. People hold the first one in such high regard, maybe because the first type of movie of its class that they saw, and you got Keanu Reeves, and it was the first time they saw bullet time and all that kind of stuff. And then the second and the third one didn't do that. They really went into the lore, like Lupe said, and they were interesting movies in their own way. But if you only liked that one type of action movie, you were probably pissed off. But the second one and the third one still had some pretty freaking incredible scenes.
Yeah,
so,
and really good writing as well. That's Paul.
Yeah,
key that you'll see. The second one, especially in terms of what I mean by writing, is how they layer some themes on top of each other. You'll see what I mean when you finish the movie. There is something they do in terms of layering the movie, editing it, and telling the story in a particular way. Because that one also, there's also a prophecy, and so the way it kind of unravels,
right?
You'll see. And one thing that people don't give credit for is the action in Matrix Reloaded. Oh my
God. That's what I remember. I remember just insane action. And the other thing I love about these movies, and I remember Matrix Reloaded taking it to another level, it's very reminiscent of Tron in the way that it takes real things from the computer program world and tries to depict them in terms of living characters. And I think that's just a really cool thing. And you really, as I say, you really see that in the Matrix and you really see it in the Tron movies. Yeah. I can't think off the top of my head of any other franchises that really go so heavy into that theme, but I like it. And it's got to be hard to execute because it could come off real cheesy, but I think those 2 franchises have done a really good job of pulling it off and making it work in a very interesting way. And from what I recall, Reloaded went even more heavy into that. So I'm looking forward to rewatching that and seeing how it holds up.
Well, you know what, guys? Let's put a bow on it for today. We have all the time in the world. We don't have to record even just one episode a week. We could record tomorrow or the day after or on Monday or on Tuesday when next we get to it. I think this is a good place to stop since obviously Paul has to, leave soon, and also Christian, you also have to leave. So I think this has been a really good discussion. I loved hearing, the stuff that you guys talked about. Christian, we're going to get to recording a review on Castlevania. We have to do it for the people.
Let's do it.
And Paul, I would also like us to record something very brief on The Hunt one of these days. I
Sure.
think we have quite a bit to say about that movie, which I didn't even expect to have that much to say about it. So that's a pleasant surprise. We definitely have to record a review on it. So yeah, are there any last words that you guys want to say?
Well, I would just say, that, we had a list of things to talk about, ideas to talk about. We didn't even get to any of the news that's come up over the past few weeks.
Mhm.
So if you guys wanted to make this part one of episode 25 and
Absolutely.
tack on a part two where we catch up on what's gone on in the movie news world over the last 3 or 4 weeks, I'd be happy to do that too. So we could always do it that way as well. So
And to say nothing of the video games that have come out too.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
you know
yeah.
that now I've actually had a chance to play.
Nice. I'd like to hear about that as well.
hey, I've even read some comics and listened to some audiobooks. So
Wow.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
one audiobook, one comic, but I finally listened to the Rise of Skywalker novelization and I read The Long Halloween. So I'd like to tie that in a little bit to the
Nice.
to the,
Yeah.
the Matt Reeves Batman conversation. So
So
yeah,
good.
maybe we can make that part of part two.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. I got some Wolverine comics I got to chuck your way too if you wanna look them up, because he's got a couple of good loner comics that I think you would like, because they're dark. They go into his past, and
Mm.
I think you'd like some Logan comics, man.
I still have my Wolverine comics downstairs, so I've got to dig through those. I have a lot of comics from the late 80s, I guess mostly from the late 80s, maybe into the early 90s, like about 4 boxes of them. So one of these days I got to go back through those, inventory them, and see what I didn't sell for beer money, when I was in my teens.
All right.
All right,
Okay.
guys.
So
Well,
that's episode 25, part 1. All right. Coming soon. We're gonna have a sequel. We're gonna have episode 25, Reloaded. And yeah, you can find me on Twitter at LiveLoveLupe. Also, I am on Vero and quite active on there. If you haven't signed up for Vero, you should. It's actually like a really cool app, and I think it's a good alternative for Instagram, because I think Instagram has become kind of like a weird place. It's become so weird that everyone I know has their accounts on private. That's how weird it has become. Like, people know it's like a toxic kind of place, and I'm not even just talking about toxicity from comments or whatever. So you can find me on Vero as well at LiveLoveLupe. Christian, would you like to say adieu to the people?
Definitely. Goodbye. I hope everybody's staying safe and healthy. This is an incredibly difficult and scary time, but I do still, in the midst of all this, believe that we will come out on the other side of it. It is a temporary thing. It could be a year, but I still think a year is a blink of an eye. Sometimes we can do this. So stick together, stay with your families, make sure everybody stays safe and healthy. You can find me on Twitter at chart6363. And if you want to go further down the Matrix rabbit hole, check out the Animatrix. It's awesome. It's awesome. Yep.
And
awesome,
Paul,
guys. Yeah, you can find me as always on Twitter at _Paul_P. I am on Vero. I don't remember exactly what my my handle is there. I'd have to check it out. I'm not an active user, but I am there. And I gotta admit, I can't even figure out Instagram. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what's going on Instagram. So anyway, yeah, we'll continue this conversation soon. Stay safe. Enjoy talking with you guys after a long delay, and we'll talk more soon.